Greetings, Patrick here. 8 questions with, and it is Tuesday. It's Tuesday. It's a blustery 24 degrees here in southeastern Michigan. That's actually a heat wave compared to what we just came through this past weekend. Um, yeah, people are digging their way out from everywhere. Uh, Our guest tonight will be Danny Knightmare. You know him from Horror Addicts YouTube channel. He also is Gory B Movies husband, partner, and he's also a filmmaker, wrestler, musician, film critic. Um, I mean, the guy who wears so many different hats. Um, and he does it really well as well. As you can tell, Horror Addicts has a tremendous following. Last I looked, it looked like it was over 15,000 followers. Um, and so I know that Danny works hard on his channel. He does some great reviews, and all in all, he's very well respected in the community. Um, Gory and him team up, and they do Sunday nights. Uh, Hey, Katie. Hey, Frog. Oh, we got a big tuber in the house tonight. What's 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 going on, Frog? Wow. See, now I know I'm gonna have a successful night because if we get somebody as big as Erie Frog in the chat, things are gonna be popping, or hopping in this case. So Danny will be here with us in about 15 minutes or so, and that's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be covering a lot of different topics tonight, including a couple that he doesn't know that we're covering about, and it's going to be interesting discussion too because I'm very curious to get his take on a couple of questions I have. There's the Bud Files rolling in here. Greetings, greetings, uh, and of course, Katie. Uh, Glad you're here. Glad you're here. I know Hobbs will be here in momentarily. Um, so that'll be a lot of fun. We're gonna have a lot of fun tonight. We had a lot of fun last night too. We did a pop up. Um, we did a pop up here on the channel that turned out to be a lot of fun. I actually almost talked myself hoarse last night. I went for 4 hours, which I never do. I never go 4 hours, not anymore, and certainly not solo. But I went ahead and did it, and yeah, I had to drink some. I had to drink some tea and some Gatorade today to protect my pipes. I almost talked my way out of the show, but we're here. We're here, and we're glad that you're here with us too. Hopefully, everybody's doing well. Everybody's warm. Um, and this is the last two shows of the year. We're only doing two shows this week. We're doing one show tonight with Danny, and then tomorrow night we are wrapping up our year of 2022 with our friend Bill, also known as Warm Strong Adventures. He will be here tomorrow, 8 o'clock. There's Hobbs. Greetings, greetings. Everybody's rolling on in. I'm glad everybody's going to be coming in. Share us out if you can. That'll help the channel. Hit that like button for me, and more importantly, try to stay for the show. I mean, we're going to be talking about a lot of things, and I think it's going to be a good show. Danny's an interesting guy, and I've been looking forward to this for quite a while, honestly. Now, I've already interviewed Gory, Danny's wife. I interviewed her. Her interview, I'm going to be putting it in the description box down below, along with all of Danny's information. So if you want to read both their interviews or watch both their interviews, you're free to do that. I want to give a shout out to our good buddy John Grande from Grande's Graveyard, who sent me a message saying that he actually listened to the show as a podcast as he drove himself to work. He listened to the interview I did with Wes, I Am the Ice Lord. He listened to it as a podcast. I can't thank you enough for that. That's really cool. That's what I've been trying to tell people. A lot of people with the replay with this show is that you don't have to watch it. You can listen to it. I mean, if you are driving around and you're just kicking it, going doing your errands or whatnot, this is a perfect show to do that with. You just turn it on and you just listen to it. Um, a lot of so I mean, that's what like I said, that's what I've been trying to do, trying to get people to do, and hopefully that'll work in the future. Oh, and also happy birthday too, John. Um, so that was awesome. That was cool to hear. Um, Again, thank you for coming in, and thank you for sharing this out. I will turn over to the calendar because that's what we do. That's what we do. Uh, um, we do one thing real quick first, and then we will do that. I will bring up the calendar. Uh, all right. Yeah, one of the fun things that happened recently is that Gory had their battle royale on her channel. Basically, horror icons battling each other, and Danny was there along with Gory, and they had a rotation of friends come on in, and they would do battle royals within folks of a certain genre, like vampires or slayers or monsters or what have you. And we all rallied around old dude vampire, and which was funny as hell because I didn't even know who old dude vampire was. I just the way Gory said it, and it brought a laugh, and I'm like, man, we got to talk about old dude vampire. So that became a thing, and the big battle, Danny was really pushing hard for old dude vampire to win. Hey, Lady Valerie's in the house. Greetings, greetings. Glad you're here. Uh, yeah, that was a lot of fun. Battle royales, I didn't realize how much fun those things were, but they were they were a lot of fun. Um, you get yourself like a field of 16 icons, and good lord, you would think that would be hard. It wasn't hard. It wasn't hard. It was hard trying to limit it down to only 16, because you start thinking about it and you start putting it, writing down all the horror figures, or killers or or heroes or what have you, and before you know it, I mean, you really could have like 400 battlers. So doing a field of 16, I think it was 16 with 16 people in each category, and it was a lot of fun. I think they might try to do that again at the end of the year, but I'm not sure. It's something we'll talk about. I will have to mention the big thing with Danny and Gory and John Grande, who I mentioned, is that we are doing our first cross-channel promotion in January. First cross-channel promotion. So on January 15th, uh, me and the Nat, JT, hopefully maybe the Bat, hopefully, we're crossing our fingers. Will join us on the 15th of January, and we're going to be talking about The Strangers. We're going to be talking about that movie and taking a look at it, and then at 10 o'clock, we're going to be all going over to Gory's channel, and we're going to be covering The Strangers Pray at Night. So we're going to make it a Strangers Night on January 15th. That will be a lot of fun. It'll be the first time we've ever tried to do this. So we have some super cool panelists too. We have, like I said, we have JT will be here with me, and we invited John Grande from Grande's Graveyard. He'll come out and hang out with us. I'm not sure who Gory will invite. I think that she will probably invite somebody to come over and hang out with her. I just don't know who it'll be yet. So it'll be a lot of fun. Hey, Blue Ice, greetings. Glad you're here. Danny will be here with us in about 5 or 6 minutes. Yeah, Yeah, we could. You know, that's not a bad idea because you know how bats always have opinions. If there's one thing I learned about hanging out with a bat for the last year is that bats have opinions. Um, so of course, Al Lucard is he got a promotion. He got a promotion at his job. So we lost him for Sundays. So it's a good thing for him and his family, a bad thing for us as far as that goes. But we're all pro bat. So any success that Al gets is a win for everybody. All right. So here's what we're doing. We're going to tell you a little bit about the calendar because you guys all know I'm all about the calendar. All right. So Sunday on the Midnight Society. Oh, wait a minute. How about this? I don't know what's happening. The midnight hour. I don't know. I don't not know what's happening on the midnight hour tomorrow, but I can tell you what's happening on the midnight hour on January 12th, and that is they will be hosting Dylan Fawn Harvey on the show. That I can tell you. They will be interviewing Dylan Fawn Harvey, Hobbs, Katie, Sean Blue Digi. Uh, they're all going to be in there. They're all going to be asking questions from Dylan Fawn Harvey. She is the star of many a Todd Shield movies, including the final call from yesterday, from Stephen from House of Horrors, and it's being played on Tubi. It's supposed to be a rock and roll. That is supposed to be a rock and roll movie. The final call, or the final call, or the final caller, whatever it is. Steven says that it kicks ass and it is gory. So we will be talking to the. She's also done Bone Hill Road. She's also done Clownado. Um, there's a ton of great movies that she's done working for Todd Shields, and so she will be the special guest on January 12th on the midnight hour, and that show will start at 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock. And you have to come early. You have to be there at 10 o'clock. She will be there at 10. So they'll only have her for an hour, from what I'm being told. So you guys all got to come over there and give some support to that show. All right. As far as what we're doing, Midnight Hour will be held on the first. That will be on JT's channel. We are talking about underappreciated films, which means, honestly, he came up with the idea. I asked him, what do you want to talk about? He said, how about underappreciated films, horror films? I'm going like, hell yes, because that means I could break out a lot of my IFC films because everybody knows I think they're all underappreciated. So I will be talking about a lot of IFC films on Sunday. Uh, yeah, big coup for the midnight hour. I know that they're going to be bringing on some more guests as well. That's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Um, let's see. So the first show of the new year, 2023, will see us host Alejandro Norris, actress, high fashion model. Alejandro Norris will be here with us. Not only is she a very hot model, very much in demand model, and she's also an actress, but she's also active duty Army National Guard. She is serving our country even as she is doing movies and modeling. This will be our second active duty serviceman that we've had on the show. We interviewed screenwriter and director Caleb Baker last year or this year, and he is actually on duty right now. I keep up with him on his Instagram, and he is aboard a cruiser, and he is headed toward the Baltics. So good luck to that. Keep him in our prayers as always. And Alejandro will be here as our first guest on January 3rd at 8 p.m. Wednesday the 4th, we have actor Galen Howard will be here with us. He has done a lot of fun things in his career. He's got a tremendous body of work. He's also done roles in the MCU and in Star Wars. He's appeared in the Book of Boba Fett, and so we will be talking to him about his career on the 4th. On the 5th, we have another librarian and screenwriter. We have Richard Pierce. We had to reschedule him to the 5th, but he'll be here. He's the gentleman who sold 6 screenplays last year. Six, six, six. Let's see. Yeah, six screenplays. I'm trying to figure out how to do that. So he sold 6 screenplays last year. That's actually just simply incredible. Most if you sell 1 or 2 projects a year, you're doing good. But he sold 6. A lot of his movies are right now in the middle of being made. They've already aired on different platforms, including Lifetime. He can write up and down. He can write dramas, comedies, horror, up and down. He's a well-rounded writer, screenwriter, and he'll be here with us on the 5th of January. The 8th of January sees our friend Kevin Kay will be coming back. This will be the first time that Kevin has come back since the second interview of the series. So he was our second. He was our second guest. He was our second guest, and now here we are, over 200 interviews later. He's coming back. Hi, Betty. How are you? Glad you're here. I'm glad you're here. I think you're going to really enjoy the show. Let's see. Make sure that. Yeah. Okay. Good. Good. I just want to make sure that Danny has no problems, and I don't think he will. Let's see, and then on the 10th of January, we will be welcoming. Kevin's show will start at 3 p.m. This is a special Sunday afternoon show. He'll be here at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, noon Pacific. So we're going to be catching up with everything that's going on with the Tube. As you know, Kevin runs the Tuber Chat channel. And he helps tons of young channels follow, because everybody starts off on YouTube and they don't really know what they're doing, like I did. And Kevin's there to help out. Kevin and everybody that pops up in Tuber Chat. It's a great supportive place. If you have questions about YouTube or how to make your channel work, or find some family and friends, that's definitely the place to go to. Hi Ariel, how are you? Hey, Echo. Greetings. Danny will be here shortly. Remember, he is on the West Coast, so he might be coming in from work. So we're going to give him a couple of minutes here, obviously. Yeah, let's see. So on the 10th, we have Kevin Caliber will be coming up with us. He's an actor, model, and stunt person. He'll be here and a competitive bodybuilder as well. So he'll be here with us on the 10th. On the 12th, I'll be joined by Katie from Popping the Popcorn on the 12th of January. Katie's doing double duty. She doesn't know this yet. This is the first time I'm telling it. She's doing 2 shows. She's popping in and doing our interview with Jake Jolly from Clay Zombies. And then at 10 o'clock, she's got to go over to the midnight hour and do the interview with Dylan Font Harvey. So Katie's going to have a lot. You better have some tea on the ready there, Katie. You're going to be talking quite a bit. And then the next week after that, like I mentioned, Strangers already. The Strangers. Oh, and here he is. Woo! I was actually getting winded there. All right, so here he comes. So put your hands together for our good friend and team Old Do Vampire. Hell to the yes. It's Danny Knightmare.
Hey, how we doing?
Good. How you doing,
Sorry
sir?
sorry about that. We just got in through the door.
Yeah, I just got done mentioning it, going like you're on the West Coast. So, I knew you probably coming in home from work, so you might have been a couple of minutes late.
We're coming home from Gory's family though, but the weather was just bad, so it took a little longer than we expected.
Oh boy. Yeah. everybody's saying hello. Everybody's here and saying thank you for coming in. By all means, yeah, thanks for coming in and hanging out with us.
Yeah,
And
no problem.
we're gonna have some fun tonight because I found out something about you, and I
Oh
want to
yeah.
ask. I want to ask. You know, I want to ask this right off the bat because I'm sure you have some thoughts about this. But so my first question is, so what the fuck's up with Britney Spears?
What? What do you mean? What's up with Britney Spears?
Yeah, what do you think's going on with her? Because I see you're a fan of hers because it tells me. I'm going, oh, I said, oh, look at that. I said, you know, he's liking all these posts, and now I'm going to ask him about this. He's watching this shit. I want to know what he thinks about it.
I don't know.
What
She's just doing crazy shit, so it's funny.
I think you know what? I think so too. I think she's going. I think she went off the rails again.
Yeah, but the Siam, it seems a little more harmless. I mean, who cares? If she wants to put weird dancing photos and covering herself up like that, whatever makes her happy, as far as I'm concerned.
I'm just watching them going like, you know, it's like, you know, her whole demeanor is just like, you know, it's like you're holding your breath. You know, I think if she hadn't had her past as it was, I
Yeah.
think I might be tempted to go with you with saying it might be a little harmless, but I don't know, man. It's like
Compared
watching
to
that.
last time, like there hasn't been any child endangerment or anything like that this time. I don't know. She seems like she's going to tropical places and like pools and shit. She doesn't wear a lot of
Yeah.
clothes, but that's about it. I mean, whatever.
I'm just like, wow.
Leave Britney alone.
Well, I don't know. I mean, well, let me ask you: would you cast her in your movie right now
Fuck yeah,
today?
I would. It would totally make my movie. Like people would watch that. I would. I'm stupid not to.
Now the question would be, Brene, how are you? Glad you're here. Glad you're here. But okay, so my question is, like, if you got her, what would you name your movie? Would you name your movie around her?
No, but I don't know. I'd just have her be. I'd have her be the killer. I'd have it almost seem like she is the final girl, but turns out she's the crazy killer in the end.
You know what? You know what? You know what? She'd be perfect as a crazy killer.
And I'd have her spear people. That's like that'd be her method of weapon, spearing people.
Now, if you could have her spear Kevin Bacon in the movie,
Yep.
in green casting, you know.
And then when
Uh,
it
let's see.
reveals that she's the evil, I'd have her when she's the bad guy. I'd have her like physically do the wrestling move, the spear to the final girl as they're fighting.
Oh, right.
But her weapon would also be a big spear.
Yeah, she's there's one thing she's not afraid to show off, and that is she does like to exercise. She likes to go dancing.
Yeah, she's
But
dancing all over the place.
yeah, but I just got the feeling. I was just wondering, have you always been a Britney Spears fan, or is this recent?
It's pretty recent. Like, I don't know. It's like retro. It's something I wasn't a fan of her like back in her, I guess, rise to fame. Like I didn't care. I didn't have a
Uh,
dislike either. I wasn't into her music or anything. I remember one time she toured around here because I was working up at the Gorge Amphitheater. It's owned by Dan Aykroyd, but it's a big stadium outside where a lot of bands can go. And I was working at the campground at the time. I didn't go to her show afterwards and see it, but I do remember her big old bus was out at our most luxurious hotel. We're a pretty small town, but we're not far from there, and it said Britney on the license plate and stuff. So I was like, oh, it must be hers.
subtle.
I do hear that from people like that I was working with because I worked in the campground area. I didn't work with the direct area, but they apparently she was doing her show and a little girl that was in like kind of the VIP area that's like off to the side, but just ran out there and gave her a big hug after one of her songs ended, and she played it up. But I hear she'd shoot everybody out afterwards. But this was a long time ago, so
Right, right.
I wouldn't say that's who she is nowadays. That's just all I heard back then. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I would actually name this horror movie that you speak of. It'd be called
Uh-huh.
Speared. Speared.
Well,
That'd be the name of the
spear,
movie.
just spear.
Speared. Like you got speared.
Oh
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
You know, I wonder. I bet she would do it too. I think if you sent her a note, I think you know she'd probably say as long as I can dance and ride a bicycle
Yeah.
and sit in the bathtub for 2 hours, I'm in.
Yeah. I'd totally do that. Yeah, I don't know. I about 2 years ago, I saw a Britney Spears shirt at like Target or something, and I bought it. And then she kind of got liberated. She's no longer under whoever was controlling her thumb and started doing her stuff on Instagram. You know, and I'm just like, I'm a fan now. I don't care. Let her have fun. That's
Yeah,
not me to say.
it was just weird though. I'm just sitting there watching it because I guess someone had read, put an article out in one of the trades about that, and I said I didn't even think about it. Then I went over there and I was like watching it and going like, damn, this is like watching a NASCAR race. Like
Actually, yeah.
I mean, you're not there to watch the cars. You're there to watch the crash.
Oh yeah.
You know, and it's just like I'm just sitting there watching it, and then I looked at they're going like, Horror Addicts likes this. I'm like, oh, so Danny's a fan. Oh, okay, that's awesome.
I think it started popping up on mine too because the girl that I had in my movie, The Orchard Man, her name's Brandy Hightower. She was like liking it and it was saying, "Oh, okay, she likes it." And, what I was like looking at, you know what, I like it too. Like, why not? Whatever. Hit that heart button because I like those funny dances and other random shit coming down on my
Oh
stream.
my
It
god.
cheers me up.
Yeah, if anybody has not seen Britney Spears' Instagram, I'm not saying to follow it, but it's definitely worth about 5 minutes of your time to go over there and look at the crazy shit she's doing. I mean, she's just yeah. So that was the opening question for you. I'm going like, yeah, I got to ask him about Britney. I
I
want to
did
get it.
I did like her, and now that I think about it, I liked her in How I Met Your Mother. She was a recurring character on there, and she played a
Yeah,
crazy chick. So, you know,
yeah. She was cute in that.
yeah, I
She
liked her in
was
that. So,
definitely cute.
I'd put her in a movie. Why not?
Uh, how's Gory feeling? I know she's been feeling underneath the weather. She getting better?
Yeah, her and Lols both got just better in time for us to have Christmas with family members. So that ended up being right. Like we just came back from her parents' house, or her brother's house with her mom and stuff. That was where we did Boxing Day. So yeah, they're feeling better.
Good. I'm very glad to hear that. I shared before you got here. I shared our first giant collaboration that we're doing. This is actually going to be the first time I ever done anything like this on anybody's channel. So, as far as that goes, and so let me ask you. I mean, you're a veteran of YouTube. I mean, your channel has over 15,000 followers. Um, I mean, you put out great content. I mean, your last review I watched had me crying with the Krampus.
Oh
That was
yeah,
that was hilarious.
he's a reoccurring character on our show, and we're always usually giving him shit for his bad movies that he's been making since he like had a huge rise to the top with and then that big Krampus movie, and then like everything he's done ever since then has been bad. So we in our universe, he's kind of like a whore that just sells himself to really bad movies because he's chasing that dragon to get back up there. But will he ever? Probably not.
Jason the Dragon. Yeah, that's a term I haven't heard in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, what's funny is I'm sitting there watching that and I'm laughing. I'm going like, because to me, I'm thinking, I'm going like, Jesus Christ. Now that I think about it, there's a lot of Krampus movies out there. I
A lot
did
of
not
bad ones.
realize how many Krampus movies there were. I mean, I know there's like 70 Amityville movies, but now that it comes for December, now that there is a lot of Krampus movies, aren't there?
Yeah. Well, like I said, it was more fun because I could go after shark movies because there's so many bad shark movies that like if you have no money for your movie, why do you think you should make a shark movie? Like it's hard for people who have a lot of money to make a shark movie. Why do it when you have no money at all? And I
No.
can't do that because the shark and like Amityville as well. It's like it's a house and I have no access to a house like that even looks like it. But Krampus, it was like a character that we could make and have and just give him shit for all his bad movies. And I don't know. It just became fun.
Now you do know. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe I have to ask you this question, but you mentioned it. See, look at there's Echo saying, "Oh God, I keep coming across shark movies. It's insane." So, have you ever watched the Mighty Wheezy Shark?
A mighty wheezy shark. No, I
You,
don't think I've seen that.
you have not seen Ouija Shark?
Oh, Ouija shark.
Yeah.
No. I watched Shark Exorcist. I've seen Virus Shark. I've seen a lot of shark movies. I don't think I've seen Ouija shark yet, though. I'm sure I will, though.
Yeah, the Shark Exorcist. What do you think?
It was really bad. Like not even a coherent story. It's
Well,
one of those really one bad ones where like they have this little CGI GIF of a shark that's swimming underwater and it looks really bad, and it's nowhere near where anybody else is. Like someone will be like near a lake, and
yeah,
it'll be like,
like
and they'll be like, "Oh, a shark over there," and then like you see the deep ocean CGI shark that's nowhere near them, and they'll
oh, I
scream.
love it. Yeah, yeah. The lake sharks always make me laugh.
Yeah.
The Echo saying, I thought Asylum was bad with them, but ITN I've noticed did a lot of them too. Just yeah, just not Asylum. Yeah, bad sharks are everywhere. But there's Canadian director named Brett Kelly, who's done a lot of shark movies. He made one for $206 called Ouija Shark.
Oh wow. I'll check it out. I usually do. I did like the last no budget shark movie. Like I liked it. I still give it like 1.5 star rating on Letterbox, but it was called Sharkula because I liked it because instead of having the really bad CGI shark that you usually get, they
Right,
have this little puppet thing that it's like so bad, but it's so heartwarmingly fun to see. And it's got little bat wings. It's a shark.
right,
It's an
right.
awful movie. I don't recommend it, but I like bad practical. Like that actually entertains me. That means that someone they have like they made that, they made a physical thing and people have something to act about at least instead of the CGI thing that they're pretending is nearby when it's obviously not. I don't know. I find those at least charming, even when they're really bad still.
Yeah, that's funny you mentioned it because like Ouija Shark sort of grew on me. Before I was just watching that movie, I'm going like, oh, just hell no, and then later on, I just started thinking about it and thinking about it, and I'm like, this is actually pretty funny. It's a horrible, horrible, horrible movie, but it has this a little bit of charm to it.
Yeah.
And so yeah, and so pretty soon we're all talking about Ouija Shark. I don't know why. It just happens. Um, what makes a good cult film? How does a cult film get built, in your opinion? I mean, if you were, how do you think a movie goes from being like so bad it's you want to flush it to so bad that you want to have friends do a watch along?
Usually, especially when the movie is kind of unaware that it's that bad, like The Room or Manos, like where they really kind of think they're making something really great, I guess, when it doesn't even feel like a human wrote it or directed it. I think that's kind of when I like it. But when they still put time into it, like they didn't just phone it in to make a dollar. I love a lot of especially old cheesy 80s and 90s movies where they were in VHS and they went straight to VHS. And a lot of them were pretty bad, but they had a lot of fun making it, and you can kind of see that. When DVD kind of became a thing, you would see these straight to DVD movies and they would have really bad like CGI usually, and they were more or less just trying to profit off of other things. Like you had Snakes on a Train. You had these type of things where they saw something that was really good. Like instead of Alien versus Predator, they had like uh, you know, Alien versus Hunter. This is what they call it, but it'd be like such a cheap knockoff, and it's like I felt like there was no real charm or soul to those movies. Like they were just hoping someone would accidentally get their movie instead, and I don't know. Those aren't for me a good cult film. But when somebody makes something at least unique, like I would say The Room is a very unique movie. It is. It's insane. Tommy Wiseau, and like I said, he had no idea. He thought he was making the most brilliant drama movie ever that people would love and quote and feel like the fear, but he didn't know any people was going to laugh at it. Troll 2 as well. That director really thought that he was making something scary. When he saw somebody premiering it not too long ago and they were laughing at it, he's like, "Why are they laughing? This isn't the funny part. This is the scary part." It's just, I think that's just
Really?
part of it. Yeah, I love it when it's unintentional, I
Um,
guess.
are you one of those? Are you one of those film? I guess film buffs. Are you one of those that, and especially as a filmmaker yourself, are you one of those filmmakers that will give credit to a movie to be made just because they made it, or are you a little bit more critical? Like, okay, you made it, but you couldn't have made it a little bit better.
Well, like I did on that Krampus one, I talked about that. Like, who looks at these bad Krampus movies and says, I can do that more or less? They know that that's what they're going to basically do the same thing of. They know it's going to be, a 2 out of 10 movie going into it. Same thing with the shark movies, especially. I don't get that mind frame, and I'm not gonna give them just super like much credit because they just made something. No, if they made something really unique, if they swung for the fences, if they thought they had a great story to tell, if they were having a lot of fun and it really but a lot of work went into it, even if it didn't turn out good work, but they put a lot of it into it, then I'll give them some stuff because I feel like they tried. Even if they strike out, but if they swung out really trying like with their heart out, that's fine. But if they're just like, oh, well, someone else can make a bad movie, I should make a bad movie too. Then no, I don't care. Like I will tear them apart, like in my
Um,
review or whatever.
dude, should I mean, because as I said, you're a director yourself, but do you feel like because my opinion is I think it's fair game, but do you think that I know some people don't think that directors should criticize other directors. I'm not that way. I'm thinking, you know what, if you saw a bad movie and you saw lazy technique or missed setups or the wrong camera angles or really bad dialogue, I think a director can go ahead and comment on that, can sit there and say, yeah, it's not the best movie. Maybe there's some things you liked about it, but I think if you commented and sit there and said, well, they used the wrong angle for this, or they used the wrong camera for that, or whatnot, or they didn't cast very well. I think it's fair game, and I think it's also constructive.
Yeah, I mean, if someone's being lazy and it's obvious, they should be called out for it. And it's okay if, said person turns around on said director. I mean, yeah, I mean, obviously. But I don't know. It's I also like I would go easier on like stuff, especially that's on YouTube, like people who are making YouTube movies. I'll go easier on them. They're probably just having fun, and it's
Sure.
free to watch. It's free to watch. If I didn't pay anything to see it, I usually won't be so hard on it. But if I see that your movie's like going for $10 or more at Walmart and I buy it, I
Yeah.
feel like then I can feel like I can complain about what I saw, especially. And I don't really even consider myself much of a director. I have directed stuff. I've done a couple short films. I'm working on one right now. I more or less feel like I'm more of a writer, and that's what I like for my YouTube channel. I like to write skits. I like to write just things to have fun, jokes. So I consider myself more of a writer than a director, but I will direct, obviously,
Sure. Sure. I
because I
mean,
want
why
my art to
not?
get made. And if I can't get another director to make what I'm writing, then I'll do it myself. But I'm doing it because I just want to get these stories out of there and jokes that
Sure.
are in my head.
Um, when you speaking of that, I mean, what's your well, let me go back I'm going to circle back around to that, but I want to know where you were born and raised at first. Were you always from Washington, or
Yeah, I'm always been from Washington. I live pretty close to the hospital I was born in. Um, I've traveled a lot for wrestling. Like I've gone to the down in Atlanta, Georgia, and everything like that. I've been places all the way up in Canada, up in Edmonton, and so pretty far up there, Calgary, and all that stuff. I've done places. I've gone to Hawaii, but other than traveling, no, I've always lived up here in the mountains. So
uh, yeah, I saw that you did some wrestling. I did not realize you had done that, and I saw that, and you got in there. I knew that. I think you did roller derby at one time, right?
I was not a roller derby. Gory was a roller derby. I
No, were you
was a
like the
part of it.
manager?
I
Oh,
didn't do it myself. Like they didn't have a men's league up here, and I never had any interest in joining a men's league, even if they did. I was the mascot, so
oh,
for her team, and well, just the derby in general. I was sometimes I just was like this luchador with a tutu, I had a luchador mask and stuff. But then eventually I became a big green gorilla. So
you must have had a lot of fun doing that.
yeah, it was a lot of fun. Getting them all rooting for stuff, banging a drum and tambourine, and just doing some dances and tricks out there.
Now, what was first for you as growing up? Were you a writer first? Were you into did you do any other sports when you were growing up? Football or skating or anything else like that? Skateboarding or
I skated a lot. I mean, I wore a lot of flannel, listened to metal and grunge, and yeah, I'd skateboard with my friends. I wouldn't say I was ever pro. Like, managed to not kill myself and land a couple cool tricks here and there, but I was never that good at it.
do you know who Stevie Caballero is?
Yeah.
Okay, you're
I
scared.
also I wish I would have held on to some of those CKY videotapes that are like so hard to find nowadays. I still have a few that are pretty hard and rare, like these old VHS of skateboard videos, because they had soundtracks that they kind of like just made, like they throw their favorite songs on there to their skating and throw it out there. and then they get sued. So anytime like they try to reprint that, especially for DVDs and stuff later, they had to change all the music. So it's kind of like rare to have some of those old ones. I have a couple of them still, but like Baker and Destroying America. But I wish I would have kept my CKY ones.
Yeah, I don't think that for some of those mixtapes, I don't think a lot of the punk rock bands didn't do any suing. Some of the later, like some of the labels like Epitaph. I don't think they would after anybody, but any
Yeah,
major label shit. Yeah, of course they
yeah.
sue. Um, yeah. Did you ever go to Warped Tour?
Oh yeah, I went to Warp Tour and Ozfest all the time. And I went to a Warp Tour a couple of years ago too. I saw Guar at that one. I've seen Guar though like 24 times live. So I've actually even been killed on stage at a Guar concert. Is my kid Law's very first concert. He was 15, and we took him to Guar, and he got to see them put me in a giant meat grinder. So that was pretty cool.
Nice, nice. Yeah,
That,
Gore, one of the nicest, some of the nicest people too.
yes,
Seriously, some of the nicest people.
yeah,
Yeah, when you would do a war concert, you have to, if you're an inside venue, you literally have to tape the stage and everything around in
mhm,
plastic tag. If you
yeah,
don't do that, you're screwed. We
yeah.
we put we put all that on the walls. We put it on the ceiling. We had to put, it took us more time to war-proof the venue than load in and the concert itself. We had to, got there at 9 o'clock and load in. It was at 3, and we're still up there taping away, taping away. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. um, what was some of your favorite music growing up? I mean, what kind of bands did you listen to? You mentioned the grunge. What kind of grunge bands did you listen to?
Well, and, the early '90s. Obviously, I was a big Kurt Cobain fan of Nirvana and stuff. Um, I liked Offspring, and then I know I wouldn't say it's grunge, but Green Day was probably my first favorite band because I had just mixed tape. I had like little actual tape cassettes, and I don't even know how I got them. I had like I don't know, Ruthless People, the soundtrack from Danny DeVito movie or whatever. I had all these random tapes. I had like MC Hammer and Criss Cross and Michael Jackson and Vanilla Ice. I don't know who gave them to me. I just had them as a little kid. But I remember eventually kind of really getting into music. And I had a cousin who was a little older than me. And he had like Nirvana and Green Day and Offspring. And I gave him some money to go get me Dookie. That was my first CD from Green Day, Dookie. It had parental advisory, so I had to pay him to get it for me. So it was
Oh
cool. That was
my
my first
God,
CD.
yeah,
I
yeah.
was really into that, but I got into metal pretty. I still love that music, like throughout my whole, still do. But I got into guar and metal just in general pretty early on because of Beavis and Butthead. Like the whole video
Right.
game on Beavis and Butthead is you're sneaking backstage at a guar concert. That is like the whole point. You got to get your tickets back so you can get in through the door and then sneak backstage to hang out with them. And so yeah, I figured out who Guar was pretty early and started really loving them. And they've been my favorite band. And I say my three favorite bands would be Guar, Kitty, and Tenacious D. They're
Oh,
like my three favorite
okay,
bands.
Tenacious D, yeah. Let's see here. Gory saying, give these guys a thumbs up or be cursed. That's right. Cursed by who? Who's gonna?
Danhausen.
Huh?
Danhausen, he'll curse you.
Well, oh man, gosh, it was funny because I was mentioning too about the battle royales you guys held on your channel.
Oh yeah.
I had so much fun with that. That was just like epic. Uh, that was one of the that was now see I have not seen Kitty, but I did see the Chainsaw Kittens.
Oh nice. That sounds cool.
Chainsaw Kittens were amazing band. Highly recommend the Chainsaw Kittens. And they had a killer T-shirt too. So
Nice.
was that your first concert?
No, my first concert was REM. My dad took me when I was like 12 or 13, and it's right when like the "This is the end of the world" and "I Feel Fine" song just kind of hit with the Independence Day movie,
Right.
and so he took me to that one. That was like my first like real concert. And then we had a bunch of local punk shows. I was always going to those. I was going to Ozfests. Like Ozfest was probably my big first festival. It was
Uh-huh.
Ozfest 2000. That's where I saw Kitty, and Pantera and Ozzy and just a bunch of really badass bands that I just
Yeah.
got into metal like crazy at that point. So, and then I kept
And
going to
remember how
Ozfest.
shocked you were? Do you remember how shocked you were about Pantera?
Yeah,
Ooh.
actually, I felt really bad. like the whole thing with Dimebag News, because I had a friend, and he's like my best friend. His name's Ronnie Angel. He came back up from LA to be in my movie that I just filmed recently. But we became friends because we got the same trainer in wrestling. So we broke into the wrestling business together. But we had the same love for a lot of the same bands and music and just movies and horror movies in general. He's wrote Slash Dreams, the encyclopedia to slasher films, and then Slash Dreams 2, The Nightmare Continues. So he has these books that are like out there if you can go look them up. He does a lot. He gets autographs. He's in movies. He was just in a movie with the Black Power Ranger. He was sending me pictures of it.
Okay.
And so that's pretty cool. But we like the first time we ever stayed in like the same place together and spent the night. Because we were on a tour, and we're not a tour, but we're doing a show down in Portland, and we stayed over at someone's house. Eddie Guerrero passed away that day, and we woke up to horrible news. And then the second time I crashed over at his house, and then we woke up to Dimebag dying. And I'm like, dude, I'm not gonna like stay the night with you anymore, because every time we wake up, it's bad news. like someone died.
Somebody's dying.
Yeah, some people that we really care about. But eventually that curse broke. It was just the first 2 times, but it was just like, damn, man, that sucks. So yeah, I don't know. I was really disappointed. I heard Pantera actually went on tour for the first time kind of since all that craziness this year.
Yeah.
Just 2 members, so I can't really say I feel like it's a full reunion. 2 people are obviously gone and can't ever join again because they're passed away, but I don't know. It's kind of interesting that they were touring with Judas Priest, because he kind of got them their start to begin with back when they were a hair metal band that they really tried to bury that. Like, you can't go find that hair metal album anywhere. The whole armor all like arm on it from like baking soda or whatever.
Right.
Back when it was Diamond Dallas, instead of Dimebag, he was Diamond. And Vinnie Paul, Rex Rocker. They had like these weird names, and they're all hair metal.
Almost like wrestling names.
Yeah, they were almost like Diamond Dallas Page, but he was Diamond Daryl and whatever, and like Rex Rocker. They had like these weird hair metal band gimmicks going on, and so that was weird. Phil Anselmo wasn't even the singer then, so it's kind of weird that they are touring with Pantera now.
I've always thought Pantera it's just vulgar display of power. It's just like the ultimate Pantera.
That's a good one. Yeah, it's probably my favorite album, honestly. Probably is my favorite.
Mine too. I just you just never would imagine seeing a band like that, and you just never would imagine how that ended. I mean, holy shit! It's just like,
yeah.
I don't know what was more shocking to me. I don't know what was more shocking, Dimebag getting killed like that, or the Great White disaster.
Oh, yeah, with the fireworks and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was just like, holy shit, both ways. But yeah, so here you are. Tell us a little bit about the band that you were in. Now, the band that you were in, were you punk rock or more grunge or more metal?
Band that I was in?
Yeah, were you in a band? Have you ever played?
No, no, I would never officially say I was in a band. I was back in high school. Me and my friends like tried to make bands, but we played only like
so you're punk rock.
Yeah, we were very punk rock, but we weren't in a band. Like some of my good friends though, they've been in bands. Like one of my best friends growing up, he was in a 6 Days of Night, and him with his cousin, and they opened up for Cannibal Corpse. So I was like, oh, I was really proud of them. And they're still over in the Seattle area in like multiple bands trying to make it. So, but they're awesome. I never quite had that much talent musically. So,
Gory mentioned that you got ate by the gore maggot.
Yes. Well, it wasn't the gore maggot. It was a wood chipper, but
wood chipper. Okay.
Same theory.
I don't know, wood chipper, maggot. I mean, what's the difference? You're getting killed by gore.
Yes,
hell
right?
Yeah.
She's seen a lot of gore concerts with me, and we've seen people get killed by the maggots, so that's probably why.
Okay, so how about this? What was your first pit?
First real pit, Ozfest. Yeah. I don't remember which band. It was probably Ozfest 2000. Like I would consider it. But the biggest pit, surprisingly, that I've ever been in was like this giant circle pit, and it went so far back at was it either Warped Tour or Sasquatch Fest? Those are pretty similar type of bands, but it was the Horror Pops. They had like this huge one. It went back and it went past like these concession stand tents. Like he was going around everybody. Like I was like, damn, this is the biggest circle pit I've ever been in. It wasn't very brutal, but it was still.
No, because they were gosh, I hate this. I mean,
Yeah.
there it is, Gory. Old dude vampire. My God,
Yeah.
that's so classic. So classic. That's just a horror pops. Yeah, they were sort of like a pop punk band.
Yeah. Like
They
with a
weren't,
lot
they
of
weren't yeah.
kind of with
Uh,
a soft, but with a horror themes, like walk like a vampire or a zombie. But
you see, DeRay Rainbow Fright is here, and she says, "Oh man, I could only dream about being in a mosh pit. You die. No,
yeah.
you would never die because
No.
no, you'd be like a zombie because your ass would never hit the floor long enough to stay there.
Yeah,
Uh,
people pick you
in
up
a
pretty
good
quick.
pit, in a good pit, you get knocked down. You don't even have your butt doesn't have even enough time to register that your ass hit the ground because someone will be picking you up and you're back in the circle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Most of the time, they're very safe. Like people pick each other right up right away.
right.
Especially with metal. I don't know why, because even though metal is very aggressive, they're just very got a good code about that. I've been in some pits for things like I don't know where people were trying to do like these fight dance moves and shit. And I don't know. It wasn't even a metal concert, so I don't know what they're going on. You hear
Yeah,
about people
well,
getting trampled.
you can always tell. You can always tell the real musicians, the real fans of the band, because they're the ones picking your ass up. Then you have the jocks who just go there to, for who knows why they're there, and they're the ones that have their elbows above their head and swinging
Yeah,
around. But you know what? They're always the one too that are coming out of the pit with half their face dislocated because they don't know the etiquette and they don't care to know it until it gets beat into them. Like, keep
exactly.
your fucking elbows down. Don't swing your elbows.
Yeah.
Yep.
They either they got something to prove with a chip on their shoulder, or they're just really drunk. But yeah, those are the people that don't last long because everybody else picks up on it real quick and gets them out of there.
Yeah, I've seen my fair share of pits like that where they've gone a little too far and got some justification.
Yeah.
Those are always fun. I got a hat out of one. One guy was acting a fool and he's standing on the outside. He was standing outside the pit, and it was a
Yeah.
circle pit. This during Rollins band, and it was a good
Boy.
pit. It was good. It was fun. So I'm on the outside, we're all pitting around, and this guy was doing what he's standing there, and then people come by, he was sucker punching them.
Ah, yeah.
Oh man, it was awful. And I'm going around there, and this guy, he's what he did. He caught me too. I'm flying there, and I turned around because it's like hell. I got hit. What's going on? I turned around just in time to see someone come from behind that guy and hit him so freaking hard. That guy's hat went up in the air, and I caught it. His hat went forward into the pit, and I caught his hat out of midair. It was the guy who hit me, and it was a Georgia Bulldog hat. It was fun.
Yeah.
Gory's first. Okay, everybody, I want everybody to tell us your first pit that you've been in. If you've been in a mosh pit, I want everybody to pop up and tell us what band were you seeing when you saw your first mosh pit. Brene's first mosh pit, Circle Jerks. Wow. That's old school right there, kids. And the last pit was in the X. Man, nothing but respect for that.
Yeah.
Nothing but respect. Though I have to be honest, X would have been fun. That would have been a fun pit. Gory's first pit was Chemical Romance. That's amazing too. That would have been a good one.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
Gosh, I can't really list because I have so many bands. I can tell you the one. I can tell you the one band pit I was in that I got a concussion out of, and that was the Vandals.
Oh yeah.
Oh
That's
shit!
cool. I saw the Vandals at a Warped Tour.
They knocked. Yeah, I got my bell rung so hard watching. I was just like, and the thing is though, I got hit, and the same thing happened. It went out of my ass. Didn't stay there long enough to even register what was going on. One thing I know is I kept going around the pit and I was getting nauseous, so I had to get out. Let's see. So while this is happening, everybody's dropping down their first pit action. So music's now how did music lead into movies? Were you a musician first? Did you collect records and tapes first, or when did you get into films?
Well, my dad, far as I can ever remember in my life, he was the manager at the local theater. And by the time I was about 7 years old, we lived on the drive-in, like straight up on the drive-in. You go in there, and there's a big snack bar building, and behind the snack bar was an office, and then it had stairways that led up to two different rooms. One was the projector room for all the projectors. The other one was our apartment. So we lived there for a couple of years. So I think movies have just always been a huge part of my life. I always wanted to write movies. I'd always come up with ideas, like even as a little kid, the stupid ideas. I still would like write them down and try and act them out or whatever, like get some anytime I could. Uh,
Okay.
so I've just been, I don't know, I've been into music, video games, and movies since I can remember. Like I've just loved collecting as much of this storytelling type like ideas, like as much as you can. I always want, I didn't ever say, like I said, I don't consider myself a musician, but I usually would write songs, like lyrics to my friends who could come up with songs because they were talented and we'd have fun. But I just like to write. So it was always that. And video games have always been a bit of a storytelling as well. I don't know. I
Um,
just loved all that stuff. So
Gory's mentioning you had cats that would walk around on the awning above the snack bar.
yeah, E and T. My dad had two black cats. He named one E and one T. So
That would have been like the best theater ever.
I would get yelled at every once in a while, and when my cousin would come over and we'd go out there and play laser tag. We had these laser tag guns, and people are like, "Ah, we're watching a movie. What are you kids doing?" I'm like, this is my front yard.
Now,
So,
how old were you there when you were doing that?
about 9.
Oh,
So my cousin, he was probably about 11. I was like
uh-huh.
9. So
Oh
yeah,
my gosh, you must have tore things up there as a youngster.
yeah.
So were you allowed to see any movie that you guys played, or did your dad say, did he say, well, maybe not so much of the R-rated stuff?
He was the only one I think that ever cared. My grandparents usually would watch some R-rated stuff with me. They wouldn't like rent anything really bad for me, but my mom didn't give a crap. So if I ever was visiting her on a weekend, she let me rent whatever the hell I wanted. But my dad, yeah, he would try and tell me not to, but it doesn't mean I didn't. Two of the babysitters that I had at that time also worked at the theater for him, and they usually didn't care. They'd be like, "Oh yeah, you're supposed to go see this movie," because I'd go to the movies all the time just when my dad was the manager there. And he said, "Yeah, you can't see Freddy's Dead in 3D," but my babysitter just didn't care. Let me grab the 3D glasses and sneak into that one and watch it. I think Freddy's Dead was the first Freddy movie I saw in the theater. I've seen a couple of Freddy movies before that, but not in the theater. My favorite one though that I like kind of snuck into, and my dad found out about it right away, but he ended up not caring too much because he had kind of seen it himself, and it wasn't that bad. It was barely R. Was Army of Darkness.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But I loved it. I thought that was the most coolest freaking movie I've ever seen. I didn't know that it was like a sequel to any Evil Dead. I was like about 8 or 9 years old, and we had this giant cardboard cutout in the lobby at the theater, like that had Ash and the little Ashes poking up at his fork, like with forks at his feet. He's got the chainsaw arm and stuff. And I begged, and I got my dad to let us take that home when we were done with it. And that was mine for the longest time. But then when we like moved once, it disappeared. And I asked my dad all about it. And he's like, I don't know. I'm pretty sure he just threw it away when we moved. And
Oh,
it broke my heart. Now I have a tiny one that I replaced it with. But I
uh-huh.
wish I could get a big one like that. I just got a big Elvira standee though for Christmas. So that's awesome.
Nice,
That
nice.
up. But yeah,
Have
Army
you
of
ever
Darkness was just my favorite. And later on, I went on to like watch Evil Dead 1. And I'm like, oh, this is really cool and scary and claim like even the claymation stuff because I still saw it when I was pretty young. But I had no idea it was the same like franchise at the time because Evil Dead, Army of Darkness. Eventually, like junior high, I finally saw Evil Dead 2, and it just clicked in my head. I'm like, holy crap, it's what? This is all like a movie, and Evil Dead 2 is my favorite of all of them now. But yeah,
Uh, now, we got a question for you from Kal-El. He wants to know what was the main motivation to do a YouTube channel, and why did you do horror?
okay, so we kind of like YouTube was kind of becoming a thing, and I saw some stuff like Angry Video Game Nerd, like in his more earlier days. I'm like, oh, this is really funny. I'd watch it with my cousin and stuff. And honestly, it was kind of weird because I started watching these videos like I think one of them was like 5 secret girl cartoons that boys watched but denied. And I was like, yeah, I watched Gem and the Holograms and I watched She-Ra. So like those two, I don't know. I didn't deny them. I said I watched those if anybody asked. I mean, whatever. It's just, I didn't think about it. But that was done by Black Nerd, Andre, the Black Nerd. And I just thought he was hilarious. And he'd do like these little skits where he's like, okay, this says that the Koopa kids are not really Koopa's kids, but I have this Mario 3 handbook that says they are his kids. And he was just doing these funny things about it. I'm like, it's actually a lot of fun. And I kind of started wanting to do something like that too. I'm like, I've always wanted to make movies. I always wanted to make a show or some sort of skits. Like I said, I write all these ideas down. I've always wanted to do that. Like, it's actually pretty feasible at this point. Like, I could make like stuff, and YouTube is a cool idea. Like, I didn't think that would ever be a thing growing up, like something where we could actually broadcast our own shows for free. And because I mean, even Pump Up the Volume with Christian Slater when he's got like his underground radio, that's illegal. Like, they're trying to shut him down just for having a radio station.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
nowadays, an 8-year-old or, you know, anybody can have their own YouTube channel. So I was like, this is actually really cool. So honestly, it was kind of like Black Nerd inspired me to do it. And I love a lot of nerd culture. I do. But I was like thinking about it. And at the time, I was like searching around and I didn't find a whole lot of horror at the time. There was ones that existed, especially like a lot of the channels we know now. A lot of them got really big, but they started around the same time as we did. And I was like, okay, well, I know we love horror. Let's talk about horror. And we had this attic upstairs, and I'm like, it'll be Horror Addicts in the Horror Attic, you know, and that's kind of like
Okay.
with characters and stuff. We don't live at that house anymore, but that's kind of what it did. And then I was talking about it and thinking about doing it for a while, but I kept putting it off. Like, I'm like, all right, I want to do this, but then Tusk came out, and we bought Tusk on Blu-ray or whatever DVD, and they talk about how Kevin Smith made Tusk, and he was just doing a podcast, and they were reading these Gumtree like articles, and the Gumtree is kind of like a Craigslist but for Canada. But he's like, yeah, it said they're just laughing about like how there's like, yeah, when you're looking for a roommate, you don't even have to pay, you just have to dress up like a walrus 2 hours a day. like they
Wow.
started joking about how like that made them laugh so much. Then like someone who was like listening to the podcast dared them to make a movie out of it. And he's like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna make a movie. And he made Tusk. So that kind of inspired me. Like, I'm done talking about making a YouTube channel. I'm just gonna do it. And my first ever video that I made on YouTube was we reviewed the movie Tusk. So
Is that still on your channel?
yeah, if you look it up, it's still there. It's for me, it's almost unwatchable. Like but it's still there.
Do you ever go back and watch some of your early videos?
Yeah, some of them. I watched some of them. There's some of them I like to go back and watch, and there's some that I like. I didn't take them down, but I don't want to go back and watch.
So basically, what we're going to be telling people right now is that at the end of this interview, we want you to go to Horror Addicts, go to the very first video, and leave a comment saying that you watched this interview and you came by to leave a comment and support for his first video. And yeah. I will be checking to see if you guys can do that. That'll be fun. Because, you know, it's always sort of fun to look back to where you came from to where you're at now.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean, I know a lot of artists, like a lot of actors or whatnot. You sit there and say, you ever watch any of your movies? And I go like, hell no, I don't do that. I don't watch myself. I sort of get that. I get that sometimes, especially if they're in bad shark movies. But I still think you should go. I still think you should go back and celebrate them. Yeah. So for sure. So was horror always was that always your first love for movies, or do you think as you gotten older you branched out a little bit more, or you like other things as well?
No, horror was probably my first love in movies. When I lived with my mom for the first 5 years of my life, she didn't have cable legally, so we didn't have like any, but she did have the pay channels. I don't know how she got it. I was 5, but she somehow had the pay channels. That's all we had. Illegally had them. We had HBO, Cinemax, Showtime, those things. We had the Disney Channel because that was a pay channel at the time, but we didn't even have Nickelodeon. Nickelodeon, for me, was the channel that was fuzzy, and I was trying to get it to work. Not the other way for other kids where, you know, you have the Cinemax, and, ooh, I'm trying to see a boob, and they're like, you know, making the fuzzy channel try to work.
American Pie it, right?
Yeah, exactly. But I had those movies, and my mom, she didn't really care or pay attention to me a lot. So I remember I had to like go back and tell, because my first 3 memories of like cinema was Jason killing Corey Feldman in the dream of Friday the 13th Part 5. And this guy with a hockey mask walks up to stabs a kid with a knife, and I was just, holy crap, that just fizzled into my brain. Freddy on the bus from Freddy Part 2, like Freddy's Revenge, where he's got the kids on the bus and he takes them out into this sand desert and like he kills them all and explodes through the one girl. And just House 2, where they have the little like pterodactyl nest and like the little toy weird worm dog. And those movies all came out around the exact same time. So I can't say which one, but I went back and found out which year. I was about 4 years old when those movies were playing on those channels and HBO and stuff. So those are my first memories of like just movies in general, and they were horror, and I just loved it. And I remember just talking about horror to anybody who kind of had an idea of what I was talking about. There was a neighbor kid who lived across the street from me, and he knew enough about Jason to where we'd like, oh, we pretend like somebody's Jason, and you got to like throw boulders on them so they get stuck at the bottom of the lake and stuff. It was, I don't know. But I like anytime I could rent these movies because my mom would let me rent anything. Anytime I visited her on the weekends because she wanted me to watch my sister. So she let me just rent whatever as long as she could go out and do whatever the hell she wanted to do for the weekend. As long as it was a good babysitter, I could rent whatever I wanted.
Okay.
I'd rent every horror movie I could possibly get at the time. There was movies that like scared me to rent them, but then when I rented them, I was so let down. Like Dolls, there's such a creepy artwork where she's like holding her eyeballs in her hands and like the teeth and the skull, like. But then I rented, and I'm like, this isn't a very scary movie. And there was movies like,
what was the scariest movie you did watch? The one movie that where you got your first time, you going like you flipped the lights on.
The two that gave me nightmares to where I could like not really sleep was both Pet Sematary 1 and 2. Those Pet Sematary movies like messed with my head. Like, like I wouldn't, I don't know. I couldn't handle those very well. Like I pushed myself to watch them, but they'd freak me out. Like I'd have a hard time sleeping the next day.
Yeah, and next time you saw your cat, you're looking at it, you're giving it the side eye, going like, yeah. Go ahead.
Especially Zelda, though. She's not even like the main plot of September. Like the Zelda was so creepy in the first one. And then like in part 2, I think there's a part where this chick, like his mom or whatever, and she's like in lingerie, but she has like this dog head. It's just creepy too. I don't know. Those visuals messed with me when I was young. So
what about now? I mean, now you watched a lot of horror. Is there any horror movies now that you watch and go like, yeah, that's some crazy shit. But I sort of wish I wrote it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of crazy stuff now. Nothing scares me like in a sense anymore, but I still get like thrilled by stuff. Like, oh yeah, like I want to really know where this is going. Sometimes if it's written really well, I care about the characters, that stuff. There's some stuff that makes me like kind of look like this because it's just so gross looking. Like usually if it's pus is way more gross for me than vomit or blood and anything, just the weird pussy shit. Like,
we're reading here that you love puppet movies.
I do, because like I said, the puppet shark from Sharkula, kind of like, oh, I actually kind of like this. But the scariest movie, I guess, wasn't even a horror movie. It traumatized me as a child. It was The Dark Crystal. And it still like makes my skin crawl. Like, ugh, I don't like The Dark Crystal. It's like that's the scariest movie I think I've ever seen in my entire life.
I think there's some movies out there are like that where they're not really scary, they're not really tended to be scary, but they're disturbing and they stay with you. I mean, they set up a tent in your head, they're there. Like for me, like Jeepers Creepers is like, man, that last 5 minutes, man, that movie stays in my head, a movie like A Dark Song stays in my head.
Yeah.
That's just it set up a tent and now it's charging tickets and it's still doing so. I think those movies that do that, I think they're precious.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. I like it when it has a lasting effect like that.
So. Gory's sitting there saying, yes, Dark Crystal still scares him. She's giving up all your secrets.
It's just because especially those vultures, and I'm not like afraid of the vulture itself. I'm afraid that thing exists and that just messes with my psyche. Like I would hate more than anything. Like I guess that would be my hell, is to be one of those vulture puppets. Like to actually have that anatomy where that's my like physical body. I would hate that. That would just be hell for me. That's like a body horror that I couldn't like process at all. I'm like, ew, why is it so gross looking? Like, it must be so awful to be that thing. No wonder they're so mean and grumpy. Like I would hate that. I'd hate anything too if that was me. Like,
Do you remember watching the show called Angel?
yes, I love Angel.
Remember they changed Angel into a puppet for an episode?
Gory has a puppet angel. In fact, let me grab it for you right here. No, actually, this doesn't bother me. I like as much. I like puppets, but at the same time, some puppets creep me out. This one is fine. I like Angel. Um, the first
I
time
don't
I
know.
ever saw Angel, the first time I ever saw Angel was
Uh-huh.
this episode. I didn't know that this was not the norm for that show. It's
Oh,
before I met Gory.
you thought that was a regular character.
Yeah, I thought
Oh,
I didn't know what I was watching. I was high off my ass, mostly from like NyQuil, because I
oh,
was like sick. I took some brownies as well, but I
Brownies
also
and
had a
Michael.
NyQuil because and I was watching Angel, and he had like a werewolf girlfriend. He was a puppet, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, am I really watching this? Or is this like me just tripping? And I never knew what it was really. I could never find it again because I looked up this weird puppet where it's like puppet and he has like, a werewolf girlfriend and he kills other puppets. And I couldn't find it. Like the internet wasn't quite as good back then, anyways. It's like dial up days or whatever. But then when me and Gory started dating, like really quickly on in our relationship, she kind of introduced me to Buffy, which I'd heard of Buffy, but I never saw it because it was on the WB and we didn't have that channel at the time. Eventually it moved to UPN apparently, and we did have that one, but she showed it to me and I'm like, okay, this is actually really cool. I love it. Especially it had like Creatures of the Week, and I like shows like that. So I was like, this is actually
Sure.
really good. But I don't know. I just always had like a pre-note because stuff I saw that was on the WB was like Dawson's Creek and Seven Heaven and all these things that I really didn't like. So I figured anything on that show channel was probably garbage. I thought it was almost actually going to be like a sitcom more like Sabrina the Teenage Witch, the original, like the old one with the Clarissa Joan Hart. I figured it
Yeah.
was something like that. Like I didn't think it would be like bad, but I didn't think it was as cool as it is. It's awesome. And then eventually the angel character.
How old are you when you watched Sabrina?
Oh, I don't remember. Sabrina, probably fifth grade through whenever it lasted. It was part of that TGI block. I'd watch most of that
Right.
stuff, even though I wasn't that into it. I'd still usually just watch it because you're a little kid. You don't have much to do on a Friday sometimes,
And Salem made you laugh.
Yeah, yeah. I like the little black cat puppet. He reminded me of my black cat, so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like that.
Salem was hilarious.
He was. He was the best
I was
character.
just wondering if you're old enough to appreciate Aunt Zelda.
Yeah, I liked Aunt Zelda. I liked her. She's pretty. I
Uh,
also liked Clarissa Joan Hart because before Sabrina, or she was Clarissa Explains It All, and she was like
right.
the teenager where boys could climb into her bedroom window and like hang out with her and her pet alligator. I'm like, I had a crush, so I was like, okay, yeah.
Was that your first celebrity crush? Was Melissa Joan Hart?
No, well, maybe I don't know. Maybe as a celebrity, my first crush was actually a cartoon. My first
Oh,
crush was
really?
April O'Neil from the original Ninja Turtles cartoon.
That's so
I
fun.
and still is like, yeah,
Oh,
as far as
yeah,
cartoon characters go, I loved April. So, and I love the Ninja
yeah.
Turtles. That was my favorite franchise that like of toys. Like He-Man was just slightly kind of a before my time, not really, but I wasn't like watching a lot of cartoons like it was on, but I didn't like focus and pay attention to them as much. I got a bunch of He-Man figures from my older cousin. Like I said, he was like about 2 years older than me, and we kind of like hung out our whole childhood. So, but Ninja Turtles hit right when I was like, "Whoa, what is this?" And I started from the beginning. I saw the first premieres of the things. I went out and bought the first action figures, and I just loved Ninja Turtles. I love the movie too. It was like dark and gritty, but
Yeah.
also kind of it was like a good mixture of the dark gritty comic and the fun cartoon. It was like somewhere right in between. I think it's still my favorite superhero movie, to be honest.
That's
So
the first time I saw Elias Koteas was
yeah,
played Casey Jones.
and every time I would see him, and like he did a lot of horror movies too and stuff, like Fallen and stuff. I'm like, oh, dude, it's Casey. He's awesome.
Isn't that something how you stereotype something like that? As soon as you see that person, that's how you see him for the rest of the time you do see him. Like
He was a
Antonio Banderas with I mentioned this many times, but it's true. Like whenever I watch an Antonio Banderas movie, man, as soon as he starts talking, it could be a dramatic scene, but man, the only thing I think of is Puss in Boots.
That's hilarious. I need to watch the new one that's coming out. I haven't seen it yet. But yeah, Eliza Cote as Casey was a huge influence on me too. Is because when I was really young, I thought he was like the coolest guy ever. So I wanted to be like him getting older. I fought my dad because I always wanted I started listening to Nirvana too around fifth grade or whatever. And I always wanted to be more grunge. I wanted to have the long hair like Casey Jones, like that, kind of like Kurt Cobain style haircut. But I had
Sure.
dark hair like Casey Jones. So that's I always wanted to do that. My dad would constantly force me to cut it, and it ended up looking like stupid bowl cuts most of the time, and I hated it.
Oh
Like,
my.
I couldn't wait till I got like old enough to just like screw it, it's my hair. Stop touching me.
Put the bowl away. Put the bowl
Yes,
away. Make a
exactly.
cake out of it. Let's see. Gory's commented about your boob comment. Yeah, the first time you saw a boob. Uh, God, I can't even imagine. Like, you know what's funny? I'm sure everybody here can memorize their very first kill, but nobody can hear there and say, what's the first? What movie did you see your first piece of nudity in? I don't think anybody can remember that more
It
than
was,
they can remember the kills.
I
Uh,
can tell you it was probably on Cinemax. Like I said, I had these adult channels, and
yeah.
I don't know, like sex was kind of normalized to me at a young age, but I mean, I didn't even know what they were doing. But nudity, I guess, and men and women kissing naked, whatever Cinemax showed, it was like softcore stuff.
Skinamax.
Yeah,
Yeah, you know, it's funny. It's like it was funny. You go over to the Tubi and you go over there and see what they have on. Oh my gosh, I was just laughing my ass off because they have all these movies from the '90s, and it was like the Skinamax heyday. And anything you saw Shannon Tweed in, you knew you were going to get nudity, or Joan Severance, or anybody like that, Mimi Rogers, or anything else. As soon as you saw those names, you knew you were going to get nudity
yeah,
in every movie. It'd be a horror movie, nudity.
yeah,
Action movie, nudity. Uh,
exactly. I can't tell you what the first one I saw was. I saw them at a very young age.
see, Ariel's asking if you've ever watched Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Yeah, I love that show. I used to watch that like because it'd be on really late at night. But usually we'd rent some horror movies. As soon as we saw them, it'd be like about I don't know 1 or 2 in the morning, and Mystery Science Theater was usually on. So we usually fall asleep laughing to that. Like me and my little sister or any of my friends that were over. That's kind of what we did. I love
How about
Mystery
this?
Science Theater.
How about this? Now, you ever watch one of those movies and they're making fun of it, and all of a sudden you realize that the movie's actually better than what they're making fun of.
Sometimes, yeah, I would
Yeah, me
agree.
too. I
Yeah,
saw a movie there. I got it from Dollar Tree, and I went home and I got it. It was called The Undead, and I put it on there, and there they are doing their shtick, right? But I'm sitting there watching the movie. Not really paying attention to them because I'm engrossed in the movie, and I just came back and going like, that movie was a lot better. It deserved a lot better than being poked fun at because it was actually a pretty halfway decent movie. I've seen a lot worse, and
oh yeah.
yeah, sometimes they get it wrong.
Oh, I
Um,
agree. Sometimes. It's
um,
also I think for them it's mostly just what they can get away with licensed wise. So they
right.
just if they can, they will. And sometimes I don't feel it's justified. It's just because
Yeah, I think it's
they
just
could.
it's just public domain. We can make fun of these movies because no one gives a shit, no one owns them or anything else.
Yeah.
Um, but let me ask you this then: what do you feel about the recent trend with some of these childhood memories, like the movies being made into going out of they're falling into the public domain, like Winnie the Pooh and uh, I guess they're Bambi and stuff like that. Now they're starting to be made into horror films. Is that a cop out? Is that laziness to do that, or is it just a trend, or what do you feel? I mean, if you got an opportunity someone came up there and said, "Hey, yeah, Tom and Jerry's in the public domain. You want to make a horror movie out of it?" Was that something
No.
that creatively that you would be interested into, or would you pass on that?
I mean, it depends on the offer, I guess. I wouldn't have any interest in it, but if they're like, "Hey, this will be a great directorial debut for you. We'll have a studio that's going to back you and then you can make whatever you want afterwards." Sure. Like I'm not going to say I wouldn't personally sell out certain ways. I'll never sell my hopes and dreams, but I might sell out a little bit for my hopes and dreams if that makes any sense.
Sure.
I have no interest in making a Tom and Jerry or Winnie Pooh horror movie, no. But if the right offer from a studio is going to help me make my career, then yeah, I guess I would. That's the
Uh,
only reason why, if they really insisted upon it. I do think it's a fad. But it is a funny little novelty. That's probably why it will be a fad here for a second. Um, I also, on the other side of the coin, though, a lot of these movies should have been in the public domain a long time ago. Disney And some of these other characters, like Mickey Mouse, should have been public domain a long time ago. Like Dracula, it took him a certain amount of years, but like these big corporations, they pay a lot of money to change these laws and rules so they can keep from becoming public domain way after they're supposed to be. So, I don't feel bad for them if that's they're losing some of them now, and some people want to go have fun with their characters.
Yeah.
But I have no interest in doing it personally.
See, Gory mentioned her first boob she saw was Species. So
That's
that would be Natasha Henstridge.
Yeah, and remember, kids, when you're playing I'm Natasha Henstridge, play it safe.
That's right. Let's see. Cinema pubes. Okay. Let's see. Oh, let's see. Ariel's mentioned her first scene was Dr. Jekyll and Miss Hyde when Sean Young was naked and I saw one boob. That's a good one. The bat is in the house. Everybody give it up for the bat. Alucard in the house. Let's see. Gory saying that Cat Dog needs to be a horror movie. Hell to the yes for that. I think Thundercats should be a horror movie. That's
They
what I
almost
want.
made
I want to see a Thundercats horror movie.
They almost made a Thundercats movie in general. Like they were trying to get Vin Diesel to be Panthro and Brad Pitt to be Lion-O, but it fell through. They didn't get too far in that.
I don't. Yeah, I just think was it supposed to be live action?
It was right around the time when the Transformers and G.I. Joe movies, like the first ones, just hit. They were like trying to get a Thundercats one going too, but it didn't work out. Probably for the best.
That actually would have been. Ben Grimm saying his first boob was just one of the guys with my first boobs on screen. Okay. I didn't even know they had boobs in that movie.
I remember she stuffed her pants with a sock. I remember that.
Let's see. And your cheetahs are watching the stream with you. That's awesome. I'm glad you're feeling better too, Gory. Very much so. So now there is something I've seen you do a few times, and maybe if you feel comfortable, you could talk to us a little bit about it. I've seen you dress up. Now, yeah. Can you feel comfortable talking about that?
Sure. I dress up a lot of times.
Is that something that came from? Is that something from becoming like where did it come from? Was it something you started doing as far as an acting goes? Like you said, you were doing acting things when you were little. Did that start off from there when you started dressing up, or was it tied to your wrestling, or how did that happen?
I mean, you're talking about in drag?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I dress up a lot of things, but yeah, I don't
I'm gonna get to
really.
the wrestling too. You're not getting away without the wrestling. We want to hear some stories about that. But I just saw that you did cross dress, and I was just curious about that. If that was like part of cosplay, or was that part of a character, or is that who you are? I mean, it was just
It's
interesting.
become a character. It kind of started off maybe a little more like a joke in a sense, but I've never had a problem with it. I loved shows like Kids in the Hall and stuff. Like I don't care. Like I've seen a lot of people wear drag throughout the shows, like
Sure.
on movies and TV. It never bothered me. I don't have like any phobia about it. Like it just is what it is. I usually, people are usually pretty funny, but as long as they're being like in a character and they're doing their character, I don't care. And I wouldn't care if they're not doing it as a character. It doesn't bother me either way. For me, it is more of a character. It's become one. Danny with an I has just kind of been a character that I created. And I actually care about that character a lot now. And so I'm trying to have more outlets for that character.
Do you write for the character?
Well, I haven't really written out a lot of like specifics, but I have like in my mind what that character would do in situations. I'm trying to incorporate it more. The first time like we kind of did it, well, at least the name Danny with an I came out. It wasn't the first time I ever wore drag, but on Horror Addicts, because Gory used to do her Ghouls Night Out, like where her and she'd get some other female ghoul YouTubers. But we did one on as a kind of an April Fool's joke, and we called it Fool's Night Out. And it was me and my cousin, and eventually we got Count Dracula and drag to join us, and Jason
You
takes
got Count Dracula? Oh.
Count Jacula.
Oh, Jacula. Okay.
Yeah, Count Jacula from his channel. And then we had Jason Takes Omega. They all just joined me in drag, and we just kind of had fun with it. And I was like, I'm Danny with an I, and I got sassy because I got really drunk. And I think I started crying because I had too many dirty martinis. But that was just kind of like a thing, and I don't know. We did it another time, and I had like the Oscar wrestler. She has like this line face paint. I did that. I really liked it, and I don't know. And we wanted to do a Joe Bob like thing, and I'm like, well, one thing we've seen a lot of people dress up like Joe Bob and Darcy, but we haven't seen a gender swap. So I was like, yeah, shit, Danny with an I, Danny the male girl, and it just kind of became a thing, and then I ran for it. It's that face of horror thing that a lot of people were doing in the community. Probably saw a lot of people saying, vote for me in the face of horror and stuff. And I did it as Danny with an I. I thought she would have a better shot than just normal me. And I think she did really well. She got pretty far up there before she finally got eliminated. So I don't know. I just a character that I like now, and I'll keep using her. So
Yeah. No, I just saw that. I thought it was very interesting, and I just didn't know what context you were using it as. I wasn't sure if it was how you were, or you're wrestling, or is that how you're making your films or whatnot. But I was curious. So I'll ask anything.
when I was a little kid,
If anybody knows anything about this show, I'm not afraid to ask the card question.
yeah. As
Um,
a little kid, we did truth or dare and stuff, and I remember several times saying, "Well, dress and drag, okay, it doesn't bother me."
yeah.
I remember this girl like one time in high school or junior high or whatever, and we're doing something similar like that, and like we're playing cards, and it basically led to me going to school and drag, and I just like, okay, whatever, fine, that's what
Mhm.
you win, because she beat me at cards, so I did it, and I'm like, I don't care. But I've never had like a problem with it, like, and I don't care what anybody does it for. If they do it because they're just having fun, cool. If they're
Yep.
doing it because that's who they are inside, also cool.
Yeah.
There's no judgments here.
No.
But I wasn't
No.
trying to be political about it. A lot of people, when they saw the Danny male girl thing, they asked me, like, either on both sides of the fence on that. I guess I'm like, I'm just don't worry about it. Like, why are you thinking so much about me?
Yeah, I
Like,
was gonna say, I don't think that's any. I don't think that's I don't as far as the political thing. I don't think that's. I don't think it says anything about politics. I mean,
I shouldn't, but some
no,
people like to pull that card. I'm like, what?
no.
Because I mean, at the time, just there's a lot of people out there and they have their opinions, and it's like, who cares? Leave people
Now
alone.
did now as far as that goes, were you in wrestling by this time? Because I know wrestling, you always come up with a gimmick and a look. Now, were you doing wrestling at the time? The same time you brought out Danny with an eye, or
No, I
and that,
mean, I've never used Danny with an eye in a wrestling match. I've actually thought about it a couple of times, like not as a wrestler, but as a valet. For like, because I wanted to like, at one point I wanted to throw an all female show because I used to throw wrestling shows. And I was thinking about like, I could be in drag and that and like get my butt kicked by some, some lady wrestler. I don't know. I didn't have like the whole thing thought out, but I mean I thought about it. I just never have wore drag in wrestling. But I've been wrestling since I was 20 and I'm 39 now, so 19 years. So
how'd you get into that? I mean, this is something you watch from Gory saying that he makes a nice looking woman.
and she
See,
went woman, like
uh-huh. And
woman.
dressing as a lady makes him sassy and emotional. That's no fear there.
Yeah.
No fear there.
I figure,
Um,
we all have a feminine side. This is my healthy
yes,
way of
we
letting
do.
mine out every once in a while. So
Yes, any man that's true to themselves will let you know that they're like I used to go shopping with my wife, and we used to go clothes shopping. I used to sit there and we go from store to store to store, and she would go shopping. I would hold all the clothes right there, and I was sitting there and I just sit just watching her, and I can't tell you how many wives would walk up to them and say, "Your husband absolutely adores you," and she would sit there and she goes, "Yes." He's just sitting there holding your clothes and being patient and not my husband would never do this. And I'm going like, why wouldn't I'm enjoying the company,
yeah,
and who cares, have
exactly.
fun.
Right.
um uh let's see. So you're 20 years old now. Was this were you inspired to wrestle by the WWE or oh gosh, what's the other one, WCW?
I was a WCW guy when they were at war with each other, but my earlier days, like I was taken to a WWE show here in town that they hit a high school back then. It was like 94, 93 or 84. I mean, like I wasn't even a year old, I don't think. my dad took me and he got a picture of him and me as a baby, him holding me, and Hacksaw Jim Duggan, like, oh, with a big
Oh,
flag and everything. And I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. And I don't really remember how I really fell into wrestling. In fact, because I don't have any memories of me not liking wrestling. Like, I don't remember exactly how I discovered it, but I loved wrestling. I loved Macho Man Randy Savage growing up. Like, I loved Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior and all these silly ones. Randy Savage was my favorite. It always has been, but I just liked it, and I always wanted to be a wrestler. I remember when I lived on that drive-in on my 8th birthday, I didn't let anybody blow out the candle. I didn't blow out the candles until Hogan slammed Andre. That was when I blow out the candles. I had little wrestling figures and a ring, and I just, once again, it's just storytelling. I love storytelling, like in all forms. And wrestling was all
cool.
about that.
Yes.
Good and evil is pretty simplistic in the 80s, but by the 90s rolled around, I kind of realized I'm not going to get very big. Like, I'm not going to be a big guy. I'm a short dude. I kind of like, oh, I guess I'll never be a cool pro wrestler like, Hulk Hogan or anything like that.
Are
I'm
you
never
like a
going to be
buck?
that big.
Are you a buck 70, buck 75?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I just figured, But then, like, I remember hearing that Hogan and Macho Man and all these people jumped to WCW, and I vaguely knew what WCW was. I knew that's where Ric Flair and Sting and a few other people like came from there. Dusty Rhodes, like some of that even went to the WWE. They came from there and went back. So I knew about it, but I was like, I didn't watch it that much. But then the Monday Night Wars were happening, where you had Raw, and they had a lot of some silly stuff. But then WCW had like these more kind of realistic characters at that time. They had a bunch of silly stuff right before that, from what I went back and found out. But they were starting to have the NWO, and they had Sting and the black and white, and Hogan was a bad guy and stuff. And I just fell in love with these cruiserweights, like Rey Mysterio and Dean Malenko, who were like my height, and they were just killing it in the ring. And I'm like, holy crap, I still could be a wrestler. And I'm like, at this point, I'm just in middle school, going into junior high, and me and my friends started backyard wrestling. I don't say it's a good idea, but we started doing it. We are just, putting each other through tables and trying our hardest to do what they were doing on TV. And me and a couple of my friends really kept through it throughout high school. And then as soon as me and one of my best friends graduated, we found a wrestling trainer like that came through the area, and he trained in California, and he showed us these videotapes of him to show us his legit. And that's how I met my friend Ronnie Angel. He met him too. But me and my friend Clayton at the time, we signed up. So we started getting trained, and then I bought a wrestling ring so we could all get trained in a wrestling ring. Wow. My trainer didn't have a ring. He just had some mats and stuff, and he was showing us. But I'm like, no, we need ropes. We need a ring. We need a thing. So I bought it. I have some Native American money saved up that I got from being Native American and stuff, that I used that towards my ring, and also just some Burger King funds that I spent, like working at Burger King at the time. So as soon as yeah. So I just, that's how we did it. I was, before, if I wouldn't have met our trainer, me and my friend Clayton probably would have found a trainer somewhere. We were looking into it. We were like Mikey Whipwreck and Lance Storm up in Canada, Shawn Michaels in Texas. We were just looking into who trained and where you could go. And we're going to plan on moving out of town and just go get trained. But happened to find a guy who just moved to Wenatchee because his mom lived up here, and he wanted to take care of her in her last days. And he was a trainer, like a wrestler down from California. And I was like, you know what? Good enough. Fine. That way I can buy a ring and stay here and don't have to move away and own a ring. And then we started throwing our own shows. Like, we threw shows in this whole area for about from 2005 to 2010. So a good 5-year run. Throwing shows. And then the committee up here, though, they're so hard on us. Like, they didn't want us to exist. They only exist because when WWE and other big shows come into town, they get a piece of their gate and stuff. But
what is the committee?
Just a sports committee that they have pro wrestling in for some reason, even though it's predetermined.
Right.
Something was made up.
Licensing. Yeah.
Some laws that were made in like the 30s, and we were in the same category as boxing and karate with all this, and we had to do all these rules and pay them part of our gate, and all these people. Like, I couldn't throw a wrestling show and have my ring announcer be under 18. He had to have a doctor's note to be my ring announcer. He had to be over 18. He had to get a physical just to be my ring announcer. But then MMA could have 10-year-olds in a cage at the same venue that's later that week.
Of course.
So it was just bullshit that they were so hard on us for that.
Politics. Yeah. Politics.
Yeah, eventually the MMA got screwed over too. Like, they caught onto them and put them in the same category, but that was something that was made that they just didn't have any laws for at the time, so they got away with it for a while. Eventually we got enough people and to change some of these rules. It's still pretty bad up here in Washington, but it's a lot more relaxed than it was when I was throwing shows. But at the time, yeah, it kind of sunk us. And me and some of my other friends, we just focused on wrestling elsewhere. And I started wrestling for Thrash Wrestling up in Canada. And I mostly just exclusively, not completely exclusively, but mostly just do my wrestling up there for them.
Did you ever get hurt up there?
Oh, yeah.
What was the worst? What was the worst? A lot of botches, right?
No, there wasn't usually a lot of botches, but I mean, if you get hurt, sometimes I've seen people get hurt just from getting in the ring. In fact, my biggest injury up in Canada is I usually would, before the match would start, I would jump up and do this big spin kick just for, to get the crowd to cheer for me, like as they announced my name, like from this corner, Danny Knightmare. I just do this big spin kick. And I remember I came down from it just weird one time and it ruined the match. The whole match was ruined. I was like, oh God.
Did you blow out your knee?
Yep, I blew out my knee. So
I've seen baseball players do that. They'll run and they'll jump up to hit the home plate. And there's been they'll show they'll score a touchdown. They'll jump up and they'll come down and blow out their knee, just celebrating.
Yeah, my worst one was my shoulder collarbone. Gory's talking about it. That was down in Oregon. My friend, a good friend of mine, just dropped me wrong one time. I don't know. He just didn't have me right, and he dropped me right on my shoulder. Just dislocated it. I'm still not connected there like it's supposed to be. The muscle's gone. But
yeah, you still wrestle now though. You won a championship recently. So talk to us about that.
Well, I hadn't really wrestled in like almost 2 years because I hardly did anything like during the pandemic. I pretty much just kind of ruined my career for wrestling wise because I couldn't get across the border. There wasn't much going on around this area either during the pandemic. But yeah, people were starting to pick things back up, and I finally, when the border opened, they told me, hey, because I used to participate for this Thrash Wrestling Super Evil Deathmatch tournaments. They're like, we really want you to win. I'm like, okay, cool. It'll be a good comeback for you. I'm like, all right, I haven't wrestled in like 2 years, but here we go. And I went there, and I wasn't 100% sure I was going to win because sometimes when they say they want you to, it doesn't mean that you're going to. You get up there, and
how does that work though? They say we really want you to win, and has that happened where someone has sit there and say we really want you to win, but then they turn around and tell the other guy, okay, you are winning, but then you don't know about it? I mean, doesn't that make for a rather stiff match because both wrestlers are thinking they're going to win?
There's last minute changes all the time, is what I'm saying. Just because I think I'm going up there, because he talked to me about winning a while before I actually went up there, and then he's like, all right, here it is, coming up, right? I'm like, yeah, I'll be there. And I don't know, things can change. I could be on the phone with them going up there. Now, this doesn't really happen very often or anything, but it could happen. It's like I could be on the phone, like I'll come up there tomorrow or whatever. Cool. But when I get there, I've had things where I was planned to win a match, and like they didn't even tell me sometimes, but like they're going over it before the show starts, and they're like, all right, well, then Nightmare, he goes over on this one, he wins and stuff. But then like somebody says something like, wait a minute. We would have too many like bad guy wins or too many good guy wins if we do it that way. And they're like, oh yeah, you're right here. Okay, sorry, you're not winning tonight. That's happened to me before. So like, or whatever reason. Or, oh, never mind. This guy, we've realized he just won a title at a different company, but they're pretty close. And since he's a champion, he should win tonight too. Like, even if it's not for this company. I'm like, okay, whatever. I mean, shit happens. It's happened to me too, where I like thought I was gonna lose, and they're like had me go over on this guy. They're like, hey, you know what? Would you wear the Panama Wasp? I'm like, it's a mask character that we had a lot of people play. Like, but you'll win. You'll get a win. You were going to win originally, but would you be the Panama Wasp? Because we like the person who was going to be him couldn't make it for whatever reason. So you get a win tonight. Big Panama Wasp baby face win. I'm like, oh, sure. I mean, I'd rather be my normal character, but why not? I'll go have fun with it. Fine. Sure. I mean, it's happened to me a couple of other ways too, where I thought I was going to lose and then I changed their mind and like, nah, you're going to win. Okay.
So you wanted the Panama Wasp.
Yeah.
Okay. If you have questions, go ahead and start dropping questions. People are saying that it's. Let me catch up here. I see a lot of wrestling comments here. Let's see. Dean Malenko is a great cruiserweight. Yes, he is. Yes, he was. It's sad about the reports on Dean. I don't know what happened to Dean Malenko.
He's got like Alzheimer's or not Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. He's got something. I don't remember, but I think it's Parkinson's.
Let's see. Chris Jericho, Eddie Guerrero, Psychosis, Juventud Guerrera were top-notch matches in WCW. Yeah, those guys were all great.
That's what got me back.
About Perry Saturn. What happened to Perry Saturn? I thought he was
it just when he went to WWE and like some bad stuff just happened, his career
Yeah.
kind of fell apart.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. I remember that.
They made him
Yeah.
like in love with a mop, and I don't know.
Yeah.
His career didn't really recover.
See, you mentioned your collarbone. Ariel wants to know who's your favorite mystery science theater 3000 host.
Crow.
Crow. Yeah, me too. Crow. Okay.
Yep.
Crow's the shit. Echo saying Dean's health is not doing good. Some of the guys at AEW have talked about in interviews. Yeah.
Still has a
Yeah,
job backstage.
I don't know how many wrestlers actually get old enough to die a natural death. You know, they always seems like they always die early. You know, through
Yeah, most of them do.
Uh, I tell you what, we touched on it briefly earlier, man, with Diamond, but yeah, Diamond Dallas Page is he's an amazing human being.
He is.
That guy's a miracle worker.
He's prolonged a lot of their lives too. Like
Oh my,
some of
yes,
them, they would have been dead way long ago if it wasn't for him and his DDP yoga.
yeah.
So,
I saw the interview with Jake the Snake.
mhm.
I know that he has a COPD now, so I know that he's slowed down. But
Yeah,
at least he got a chance to live a clean and sober life and connect back with his family and Diamond Dallas Page. Yeah.
I
Um,
fought him once in a bar fight. It was like it wasn't necessarily a wrestling show, but they would get local wrestlers to show up for these
right.
I don't know, like twisted carnival shows. Like they would have like people be human dartboards and all these other things. And they had Jake the Snake and this other wrestler named Kazarni in WWE. He had a very small run in WWE. He goes by Cinnabody most of the time. But yeah, they had him and Jake the Snake kind of get into it, but then they'd have like these local wrestlers come out of the crowd and get into it with them. So I did it twice, and Jake the Snake was a fun guy. He was going through some of his harder times during then. He
Mm,
wasn't quite cleaned up. He wasn't in his worst though. I mean, I'd seen and heard worse things about him.
yeah.
It wasn't during his complete clean times, but I've also seen him once since he got clean, and it's just a miracle, like how he's still like that. And then he was in AEW for a little bit, but hasn't been on TV because he's going like through the stuff you just mentioned. But it's still a lot better than it would have been if he hadn't gotten.
Yeah. I mean, now he's gonna go out on his own 2 feet.
Yeah,
It's a shame what happened to him. Like honestly, especially now, that's something actually you don't think about. You don't really think about wrestlers and smoking too much. I never did. I was like, well, the first time I ever heard about that, I was like really surprised because it's like, how the hell can you smoke and go out there for 300 days and go ground and pound the way you do? You got to have every ounce of your lungs available to you because
I couldn't do it. I don't smoke, and for reasons
Yeah,
just like that, I couldn't do it. But
yeah,
I know a couple of wrestlers that they smoke like a chimney somehow. I don't know how, but
yeah. It was crazy. Um,
speaking of smoking and wrestlers, though, I was on a tour back in 2016. We went up through Montana and back from here, but Bret Hart came on that tour, and he wasn't in wrestling ability. He was just there to do a big. Dusty Rhodes just passed away, and that was his big spot. Is he go out there and talk about Dusty Rhodes in the middle of the show? But they're like, "Hey, Washington legalized it, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Could you get Bret Hart some weed?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course." So I bought a bunch of weed for Bret Hart for the tour, and he just thanked me. He's like, "Oh, this is so cool." And it's right before Canada legalized it. Like it's legal now up there too. But I was like, "All right." I bought Bret Hart weed, so that's kind of a thing
that's
that's
cool.
fun to say. He's a nice
That's
guy. I got
cool.
to tour with him, and Scott Steiner was on that tour, and so was my friend Gangrel in a sense because I've been in a lot of shows with Gangrel, and he's also been in the Human Centipede 3 and a couple other horror things. But Scott Steiner, as much as everyone says how crazy he is, he liked me for whatever reason. I saw him kind of snap and make everybody else kind of wet their pants in a lot of ways. He was a pretty snappy guy, but with
Right.
me, he was really sweet. Because my match was second to last, and we'd get a holy like this is awesome and holy shit chance. It was just me and two other guys unknown. We
Right.
tore it up every night out there, and Scott Steiner versus Gangrel was the main event. And he'd come back like he'd be waiting in the wings as we'd come back from our match, and he'd like got him good and warmed up out there, kid. Good job. And he's like, I'm like, oh, dude, Scott, you're cool. So even though he's scary for a lot of people, and I can see why, he was always nice to me.
Yeah, yeah. Scott Steiner would be one of those guys that'd be like, oh, I don't want to get on his bad side.
No, you don't. You don't want to.
Thank you, Katie, for dropping the links to Danny's channel. Wow, I already. I think I should think about wrapping this up because we are going past our time. But I do want to thank you, Danny, for coming out and hanging out with us and answering any and all questions we threw at you. I hope everybody really okay. Kelly has one question for you. Your top 5 wrestlers.
Oh, it's hard. I'm gonna go Macho Man because he's my favorite of all time. Sting is a huge influence of big names in the '90s. Dean Malenko, just because he really got me back into wanting to be a wrestler again, just because of how great he was. Mick Foley, because he's just a sweet guy. I've met him several times. Just the nicest guy, and he's given his whole body and mind
Oh,
to
no
wrestling.
shit about that. No shit
He's
about
given
that.
so much to the business, and he's such a nice guy, and he really looks out for younger talent. He's trying his hardest to like help people. He really campaigned behind Becky Lynch before she got big. He was really pushing for her to get a shot, and she did. And my favorite currently right now, there's 2 of them. I'm gonna just give you 6 because the 2 that I'm watching right now that I love on AEW the most is Orange Cassidy and Danhausen. They make me laugh, and I would love to have a match with either one of them. So.
Yeah, I heard about the Orange Cassidy. And well, that's such a cool name. It's the most unlikely as a wrestling name that you would see.
Yeah.
Is Orange Cassidy. I think the only thing that could probably beat it if old dude vampire walked up there and did it.
Old dude vampire, baby.
Old dude vampire. We're gonna have to talk about your battle royale next time through. But everybody else, I want to thank you guys all for coming out and hanging out and supporting this interview with Danny. You guys were awesome. Thank you so much, and I appreciate it more than you know. Tomorrow night we have our last show of the year. Tomorrow night we'll be having our friend Bill from Warm Strong Adventures. He'll be here at 8 o'clock. And he is a world traveler. That guy goes everywhere, and he's also historian, and he's an explorer, and whatever. And if there's a place to go, he's going to go see it.
Awesome.
Real quick, what do you got going on your channel? Is anything big going on your channel or on Sunday nights with you and Gory? Anything upcoming like this Sunday?
Well, Gory's gonna do Gremlins 2 here soon. I got a small stream. We're gonna review the Menu in a half hour on my channel at 7 o'clock.
Okay.
So that's what I got coming up right away, and then I'm gonna
try and do live. Would that be live or is that tape?
Yeah, it'll be a live review.
Okay, so we're gonna head on over to Horror Addicts as soon as this stream is over.
And other than that, I'm just really since the holidays and stuff are kind of over, I'm really gonna be working in post of my last movie that we made called The Orchard Man. So
okay. When can we expect that to hit?
I don't know. Sometime this year.
Sometime this year.
Yeah.
We will definitely be having Danny back out to talk about The Orchard Man when it gets completed and past post-production. So thanks so much. Stay right where you're at, Danny. And to everybody else, thank you again so much for your support. I appreciate it so much. And we will see you tomorrow. No, we'll see you in 30 minutes over at Horror Addicts. For some of you, I will see you tomorrow night. Thanks for coming out and have a good night. Peace.